Welcome to the Baller Pod, guys. I have an absolute bomb of an episode for you today. With me is the real OG of the EuroLeague basketball strength and conditioning scene, Kostas Chatzichristos. You've been around a while when you measure your experience not in years but in decades. With over 2 decades of experience in elite basketball, currently Kostas serves as a director of performance in Fenerbahce Beko Istanbul, where he oversees players' athletic development, rehabilitation, and manages performance staff. Kostas, happy to have you here. Welcome to the pod.
Well, it's great being in this pod, being your guest. Those 2 decades kind of stabbed me in the heart because reminding me how old I am. So yeah, but I'm proud of my scars. Let's say I've been around for a while. The time flew by. I remember the time that I was this innovative young coach to being a veteran. My good friend said, if you go to the Final Four this year, you're a veteran. I said, man, I don't want to be a veteran. So, anyways, I'm glad to be here. To talk about training, to talk about coaching, to talk about our sport.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to make you feel old, but definitely.
I'm joking.
Yeah, you're still innovative. Otherwise, I don't think you would be, talking and still doing your thing. So yeah, what is fascinating to me is that you bring that European style, but along with the U.S. knowledge, because you did your university at University of Texas, and then coached at Georgia University. Then brought this knowledge to Europe. So I really like your kind of mix of both styles here.
Yeah, it's a mix of both worlds for sure. And honestly, the world of strength and conditioning, especially if we talk about 15 years ago or 2 decades ago, it was definitely the U.S. In Europe, we had the fitness coach, we had the track and field coach, which I deeply respect because they paved the way for us. But the true knowledge and the true revolution was happening in the U.S. I think that now Europe also has it's forming its own environment, its own ecosystem, and its own philosophy based on our condition, based on our capabilities, which are different, and by producing knowledge in various universities and hopefully in various clubs. So I think it's a mix, and it's really interesting to see how these worlds evolve in terms of techniques and in terms of approach.
And maybe we can stay here. So over your career, what have you seen particularly? Like what evolved from the time you started or you came back to Europe to, let's say, now in basketball?
Well, a lot of things evolved in many directions. The first one is that we went from, if we talk about elite basketball, which I was privileged to be a part of all these years, is that we went from a one-man show, a one strength coach, a one physio, and a doctor to a multi-person staff. So it was just me or it was just a strength coach trying to do everything. Of course, you can't do everything. The level of support was much lower then than it is now to our players. So getting more people on board and sharing responsibility, and therefore being able to do more for our players and for our coaches is one big change. The level of knowledge has definitely increased. Stuff that was groundbreaking and pretty unique 15 years ago now is common knowledge. And this pattern is going to continue to be, I think, especially because of the information and the speed the information travels. So training has evolved I cannot specify the direction in all environments, but weight training, for example, was not so popular, or when it was more based on weightlifting and bodybuilding, let's say, and that kind of put a lot of athletes off and a lot of coaches, and it evolved into something more scientific. Our knowledge of the game has increased dramatically. So we are able to do things better. I think to prepare our basketball players to play basketball and not do things that are generic or are not too close connected to our sport. For example, in preseason, running laps, running in the forests. Coaching itself has evolved along with the generation. The old school autocrat that I tell you and you execute type of guy is dead. Players now have opinions. They have a lot of resources and a lot of sources they can consult. Not necessarily getting the right information, but you're not the only authority out there. They have opinions. You have to approach them in a much different way. The generations have changed, as all coaches will attest. So there's been quite a lot of changes of those years.
Perfect. That's an amazing answer. I wrote down for myself, like, to me, like 90s were like a glorification of conditioning, crazy volume, and like mental toughness, let's call it. But now the game is much faster. Players are better, shooting from further. So like old style of training is not gonna last in this decade for sure. Yeah.
I think it's people got smarter. We saw that there were a lot of, as track and field coaches say, there were a lot of empty miles in there. There was a lot of random tradition that we have to do this. Otherwise, we're not going to be in shape. I remember my first year at ESCCA in 2014. I was very privileged to be working with Coach Tudis that won several EuroLeagues up to that time by doing preseason on the track and field and on the soccer field for 2 weeks. And we had a different approach, and it was so foreign to him. And I understand him fully. He was worried about the team if we're going to be in shape because we didn't do the traditional thing. So we went from that, and I'm not saying that a lot of coaches figured it out. Also, the conditions of the actual the conditions of play has changed. For example, now we have the teams, the players playing basketball almost 10 months a year. We have very short preseasons. We have a lot of games throughout the year, so we have to do more with less, so achieve more results during a more limited time. So all these things force us to adapt, and like the old saying says, adapt or die, whether you're an athlete or a coach. So two things about coaches is, for sure, you have to have your antennas up high and see where the game is leading you and how situations are shifting. And the second thing is that you have to constantly keep yourself up to date with the new information and the new developments, because pretty soon you're going to become obsolete. For me, being a veteran coach is a badge of honor. Being an old school guy is an insult. So I'm really trying not to be that guy, right? I want to be to blend knowledge with experience instead of just sitting back and say, well, I've been in it for a while. Because sometimes I joke with the players and I say, when we have an argument, and I'm always joking, I said, I was in basketball all your life. So I'm in basketball 20 years, so you were not born the day I was playing ball. So I'm in basketball more than 30 years. I'm 50 years old. So old school is bad. Veterans not that bad.
That's great. Well, not to be stuck in the past now.
Sure.
I'm curious to ask you about what the emerging trends, or what things do you see will shape the future of basketball and strength and conditioning?
Ooh, that's a difficult question, and forecasting is difficult. And first of all, we have to see how the game is going to evolve in terms of I'm going to talk about the EuroLeague and how this elite level is going to, where this elite level is going to head. And that will shape the answer. And then maybe we can draw some broader conclusions for all the levels of basketball in Europe and globally. It will depend on how this game is going to evolve. For sure, I see the game density remaining high because of financial reasons. And I think this is a good thing in general if we keep a little bit of sanity in it. So that will force us to practice less. I think in the high level, training is going to be more and more individualized. We have to see how each individual gets loaded and what they need and how they adapt to this very random schedule that we get. We have to fortify them against injuries, and bringing people back from injury is going to become, as it already is, a big thing. Technology is going to play a big role in that. So now with all these devices, we can have more individualized approach. We will rely more and more on technology. For sure, we should not leave coaching aside and experience aside, but for sure, technology is going to play a bigger role. And with a combination of the input of the coaches and the expertise of the people that design those devices are going to hopefully bring them soon into. It's going to raise up the technology level to where it's going to be even more useful. Because right now we're measuring what we can measure, not what necessarily we need to know. And AI is being increasingly being applied to training in the form of trying to aggregate data and try to get data to make sense. And there are companies out there trying to use AI and use machine learning and AI to draw conclusions and help us do our jobs better. So I think that these are some major trends that are going to influence how we get educated, how we apply our knowledge. I want to say that we should not get away from the core of training, which is working with the athlete. And a lot of times we have this conversation about injury prevention, for example, and we say, which metric do you follow, and how do you set up your KPIs, and what platform do you use to note everything? And that's all great. We need data. We need to draw a picture of the team and the athlete, and that is absolutely necessary. But let's not forget that the actual injury prevention or training happens in the gym, working with the athlete, knowing anatomy, knowing physiology, knowing biomechanics, and actually being able to connect with the athlete. So if I know these things and I'm just a total stranger to you, and I'm cold, I'm being a prick, let's say, or I cannot connect with this new generation, then all my knowledge goes to waste. So we should not forget that the actual work is done on one-on-one basis with the athlete, and those skills should not be forgotten or put in a second, let's say, priority. The first priority is work with the athlete, understand anatomy, understand physiology, and then use all the other stuff, technology, organization, and all those things that we talked about, in order to understand the athlete better and apply your knowledge, apply your craft, right? So by just measuring load, no athlete is going to get better, or you're not going to be able to improve them just by looking at your laptop. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I feel like a lot of sports scientists, strength coaches are searching for like the next thing, while they're forgetting why are we there at the first place? Why do we have our job at the first place? Not to measure things, but you need to keep athlete strong, healthy, and ready.
Yeah, well, you need to know how to do those things, and these are the top skills. And it's funny now, sports science is my time. Like, so when I was studying, sports scientist was me. I was exercise physiologist. Now it's like the computer person, which I deeply respect. I absolutely need that person, and I'm trying to get some of that knowledge myself. I'm working on my PhD and just got very interested in technology and how things work and how things are analyzed. But the majority of the time, I mean, my career, and still now, I spend by studying anatomy, studying biomechanics, trying to understand the connections between the parts, which is, I think, where the let's say the mastery of training comes from, that trying to understand the relationships and how everything is binds together. So that takes a deep understanding of the body. What happens if one part moves? What happens with compensations, individuality, all this, a lot of variation from athlete to athlete, and how they move and how they function and what's normal for each one. So this is not going to be, no one's going to tell you that through a computer. And because we can measure so many things, I see a lot of young coaches focusing on those things and say, well, I did my force plate testing, it showed this and this, and I want to focus on improving the eccentric landing, let's say, force. And I say, all right, that's great, but that's just a tiny part of, and who knows if this measured correctly, and if it's just random, because there's a lot of randomness in this, and so on and so forth. So we need to look at the whole, and then break it down into pieces before we look at the whole again.
Perfect. Yeah, that's I like how you start with like a cautionary tale, but I do want to maybe speak about how can you make that technology part or that tracking part useful in your like day-to-day with the team. So how can you actually incorporate all the data analytics you get into your day-to-day training programs, let's say?
Yeah, that is, once you start collecting data, you have to collect data from different sources if you want to paint a picture, and a more holistic picture. And that requires an investment to buy those devices. It requires time for you to get educated about basic use. And then it takes more time to start to work on integration and try to figure out what all these things mean. You need another platform, in my opinion. It can be Excel, or it can be Power BI, it could be whatever, or one of those asset management systems that are sold commercially. We use asset monitoring, which is a very simple and very, very useful brand that I've been using it for 6-7 years. That we aggregate all the data there. We have a dashboard. So basically, we try to make sense of this data. And I'm fortunate to have a sports scientist working with us. So he is doing the majority of the filing and the updating, because once you start in this data trip, let's say, you got to be very consistent. And you cannot just collect data whenever, or whenever you're free, or just forget a couple of guys one day because you were pulling all different directions, and you couldn't get that questionnaire, for example, the answer to your questionnaire. So you need people to help you. And that's what we did. I'm fortunate to have a club that really gets it. And we have grown our department from just really small to having a staff of 10 at the performance part, and then a sports scientist where we collect the data. We have Kinexon for our external data. We do questionnaires. We do force plates. We do have dynamometers, and we're looking to add more things. But the main thing is, and I always say, let's slow down one thing at a time. Let's try to figure out what that means, right? So we start using it for simple, try to get answers on simple questions, try to see how we could best implement it. They're used in the team. For example, force plates. The professional basketball team, or any basketball team, is not a lab. You cannot run experiments. So you have to find out in your particular environment where and when can you test. You need to educate your players why you're doing it, because a lot of them don't want to test. They don't understand why we're testing. Once you understand, once you tell them what the use is, then it becomes much easier. I had a couple of guys that didn't want to do the jump tests. So single leg counter movement jump, for example, was a big one. Oh, I can't jump off one leg, was the answer. And why should I do it? They didn't want to look bad. Once you explain that we need baseline data, something happens to you, we need to have at least some kind of measure where you are in terms of recovery. I'm always with other tests, but that's a basic one. And then once they got into understanding why we're doing things, they were more willing to participate. So I think organizing a system is how you need to go about it, and just taking it one step at a time. Don't try to do everything at once. We've been trying to that's our third year that we're adding things. I said we're going to add, our thinking was to add one thing per year, one device. So we started with Kinexon and handheld dynamometry. Then we got some more devices. We started integrating more. We created a culture of testing and sharing data. That was not easy, and it's not perfect yet. With the physios, with the doctor, with the management, with the coach. So it's not going to be a battle of opinions, but we're going to have some objective data backing up our decisions. We try to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So it's a very exciting, let's say, creative journey to kind of trying to figure things out and see what's missing and then try to add it.
Does any like specific example come to mind where like, not naming names, but maybe like where technology has impacted maybe player development, load management, or rehabilitation, for example?
Well, many cases. First of all, we're able to see with our external data, measuring every practice and every home game. Unfortunately, we can still not measure EuroLeague. But we are able to see we are able to see weekly loads. We're able to see to compare players that play that versus the ones that don't play, and create and make up workouts. We're able to see when players are not reaching their own standards of let's say we use Kinexon, so they have this accumulated acceleration load, mechanical load. When they're below their standards, we use per minute measurements also for intensity, and we are able to see if somebody, like I said, they don't meet their standards, or they have a period of time that they don't perform according to their capabilities. Force plates, we were able to see after injuries. For two examples that stand out in my mind, we have a case of a second-grade ankle sprain, trying to get back to action, and also a calf strain that we had in different athletes. And we were able to use the force plate and we used the single leg counter movement jump to see how far behind certain metrics were, jump height and things like that. And just you saw a curve right after the injury, first test, second test, third. It took about a month and a half for both cases to reach the pre-injury level. So we knew that the athlete was looking good, was performing seemingly seamless, but we knew there was deficiencies there. That was an indication. I don't think you can draw conclusive results just by one measurement, but that was something that gave us some clues, right? So I'm not saying that this is the end all of all testing, but it was interesting to see how long it took people to get back into the pre-injury level in this particular test.
Yeah, that's great because you had like similar topic on the Kinexon seminar we met like a few months ago, and to me it jumped out. You kind of compared the data-informed decisions versus data-driven decisions. So what's the difference
I don't
here?
think that we're very far away from looking at the data and say we're going to do this, right? So this points to some direction. The data point is some direction. Well, we got, so for example, you see this performance, somebody has, 80% of the vertical jump they had before injury. So what are you going to do? You're going to take them out of practice, or are you going to tell the coach they can't play? You have to look at other things. One of them being very tough to measure, which is the desire of the athlete to play or the fear of playing. Kinesiophobia or such phenomena that we observed after some injuries. There's a lot of things that you need to consider before you make a decision. So you get those numbers, you say, okay, well, the last two practices were below this person's standards. Then he answered the next day on the questionnaire that he was 2 standard deviations above average, above the average in soreness and fatigue. And his measurements are down and he doesn't feel very well. Well, maybe, just maybe, we'll tell the coach that this athlete is not quite there yet. So maybe we can limit his minutes, which we actually did last week with one of our returning players because of certain reasons. And we said he's going to play for maximum 4 minutes straight. And then we're going to sub. And my job on the bench was to call this 4 minutes. Why 4 or 3? Arbitrarily. Because we figure that, we saw us also in practice that after that the performance goes down, and we didn't like what we saw. You saw the metrics, and all of this together, we were taking into account all these things, all these factors. We make that decision. An experienced coach could probably, we're all experienced. Say, okay, this guy can really play his normal minutes. But now it was a little more, okay, well, let's see, we got this metric, and this metric that kind of confirms. So let's do it. If it was the final 4, I would say, you know what, let's use him as we should and win the cup. But that's 1 game per year. And also there you got to be smart, because if you need the player on the 4th quarter to be fresh, you got to handle them during the whole game.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, this is interesting to me because then you come full circle to this art versus science of coaching. You got all this technology and data on one side, But then at the end of the day, sometimes best indicator is just asking player, how do you feel today? And it's better than any
Exactly.
technology available.
Exactly. Another interesting part is that all these experienced coaches that I was very fortunate to work with, like Staros Jasikevičius and Dimitris Itoudis, and before that, Joros Bartzokas, they kind of know what's right, like 90% of the time, maybe more. So they'll say, you know, once we got all adapted to this new format of the EuroLeague where we play so many games, I don't think that you need to have long conversations about how long we have to practice. And many times very often the coach will say, well, I want to rest this guy because they look tired, and you were about to say that. Or I remember Coach Itoudis, one of the years that we were in ESCCA, we had the Colo and Teodosic at the same time. Was just for like 4 years they played together. And I remember in one trip he was looking at the stats, the stats for the whole season, and Nando had like 21.5 minutes per game, and Teo had like 21.2. And no one ever told him, take this guy out, put this guy in. They just know. They're very, very experienced and very capable. And that makes our job a lot easier. So, yes, experience, art, it's a big thing. And basically what experience is you learn how to identify the patterns that lead to certain outcomes, certain results. And I joke sometimes with my intern or my assistant, I say, this is not going to go well, or if we put this guy into practice, he's going to for sure get hurt. And I tell this to coach, hey, if you what difference will a day off make? I said, yeah, it will make a difference, and I know because I've seen it. I know the patterns. When you're experienced, you recognize the patterns, and then you see certain events, and you know that they're going to, with a very, very high probability, are going to lead to that particular outcome. I remember many times before the game, I'll tell coach, because we were with Coach these 8 years, say, hey, tomorrow we're going to win. You see the power, you feel it. And other times it was the opposite. And then you recognize that's what experience is in any form. So you learn how to recognize those patterns. So, but data is super important just to be able to back it up and update and revise your opinions and revise your gut feeling, let's say.
Perfect. All right, we're gonna switch gears from technology a little bit to the in-season like training strategies. I feel like a lot of people not working close to these high-level teams. You guys are playing 2-3 times a week with international travel, so sometimes you're more how do you say, put out the fires, not developing players, but you actually like taking care of them to just feel good enough to get on the court. How are those challenges for you, like maintaining that performance and busy schedule?
Yeah, that's one of the major challenges in our world, because contrary to some other environments where you don't travel that much or you play less games, you have more practice, and you can focus on development a little bit more, like you just said. We have to juggle a lot of logistical issues. We have to juggle with a lot of logistical issues. For example, like you saw in the Kinexon event, we have to juggle with 4 different levels of different categories of players based on the minutes they play. Players that play a lot of minutes, that play medium minutes, that play low minutes, and they don't play at all. Then you have the introvert people. And then hopefully not that many. And then you have the players that will play in the EuroLeague, but not in the Turkish league in 2 days. And it just creates a little bit of a chaos where if you're not organized enough and if you don't have enough help, you can easily start missing out on things. So, for example, missing out on lifting days for guys that need to lift. There are guys that played and because of continuous games didn't get a chance to get in the weight room. These athletes probably need to go and lift after the game, and so on and so forth. So it's a very individualized approach to some players do need the development, the ones that don't play a lot, so they have a different program design versus the players that play a lot, versus the players that play a lot and are facing a certain health issue currently. Somebody might have a painful shoulder or a painful hip, so the program needs to be readjusted. So it's a daily task to observe monitor, evaluate, and design programs and manipulate their load. So that's our job.
Yeah. Um, well, the season is long, like 10 months basically. We're just at the beginning of the playoffs right now.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you look at the players sometimes and do you feel like this guy doesn't need extra session, he needs a break, or
Of course.
how far you can push them, also mentally, not just physically, maybe?
Well, they're so pushed mentally where the mental part is, just compete 100% in every game, whether it's playing a top EuroLeague team or playing a local team that is not that challenging to you. That is the mental battle. Or, yeah, just after a trip, get into the weight room and do your work. We really don't want to push them that much on things outside basketball. The coaches are pushing them too much. The pressure is too much, and we have to find a way to do what needs to be done, but also try to keep them interested, and also try to maintain some kind of good mood, right? That doesn't mean that we let them do whatever they want, but that comes back to the art of coaching. What culture have you created in the weight room, in the process of athletic development and rehab? So athletes are playing along and are also motivated and interested, and being close to them on a personal level, being interested in themselves, in their well-being, and proving it is one thing. Providing good. I'll use the word service, but good coaching is very important to understand that you know what you're talking about, and be confident in yourself that, hey, if we do this, you're going to get better. You're actually going to feel better in the game than you feel now, despite the fact that you're tired. And also give them some ownership of the program. So in our level, you have guys that have trained at very high level. They have good coaches. They have an idea of what they want and what they like. Some of them, not all of them, a lot of them need guidance, and they don't know about it. They are a little bit trying to be intimidating. And that's, again, where you should stand your ground, find a way to communicate with that person, bring them in to do what they need to be done. So, but it's important to explain to them what you're doing, and also give them some ownership on the program, give them some choices. It's not the only thing that is not non-negotiable is you're going to do work and you're going to do the right stuff. So if you don't want exercise A or exercise B and you like that other exercise that you'll be doing, that's fine with me, as long as this exercise makes sense and it's not harmful. I'm not crazy to do my program. Sometimes I got a couple of guys that come in sometimes and they say, just, I'll do my own thing. We don't encourage that. That doesn't happen very often, but you observe them. They just do fine. Just take a nice 4 or 5 exercise program. They come in, they go. Now it's their day. So I respect that in our culture that we give them some ownership.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes just like option A or option B makes wonders, and they feel like they have a sense of freedom or like choice, and that is much
Yeah,
better.
that's not my way, but I can see how that can work, for sure. Yeah, give them some choices, listen to them. A lot of them know their bodies, right? A lot of them need guidance. It doesn't matter how old you are. Some of them just look in the eye and expect from you to design every little step. Others don't need that. Others kind of know their body, so it's a very dynamic environment. So that's part of the fun.
Yeah, great. Staying here with let's say high pressure situations, I'm wondering because you mentioned before, sometimes day before the game or at the game, you're gonna either win or lose. You can sense the energy, but how do players come to you, or where do you find your spots? Let's say at warm-ups, you see like it's not the best day, or do you have like some secrets you can share with us? Let's say.
Not so much. I wish I could say that, hey, I told this guy this and they felt great and they played great. It's hard. Warm-up is a little bit misunderstood, especially at our level. I don't think there's anything I can do during those last 20 minutes at this level players that I can change something dramatically. The preparation for the game starts a few days before the game. how motivated you're going to be, what they decided internally uh, to do with this game. What is the mood from the previous match? Did we win? Did we lose? Did you play? Did you not play? Are you a big name that didn't perform and you want to prove yourself? So usually I don't talk to players that much in the warm up. They
Mhm.
have their own routines. Everybody does their own thing in terms of like their routine. We know about it. We help them. We walk through them. We walk it through with them. We assist those that don't have routines, but we let them focus. We don't talk to them that much. We don't play music. We have a pretty, we try to create a focused environment. So I don't think that I have a big secret. Trying to in the time that leads to the game, trying to interact with a player that you see that they're in a bad mood, that they have an issue because the coach didn't play them, or they have some worry in their mind because of a pain they're feeling, or some pain they're feeling, or an injury they might have had. That is a very good place to intervene and try to kind of push their thinking towards the right direction. That's why we're privileged to have them one on one. Sometimes in the weight room, no one's listening, and they'll just open up to you or
Mhm.
physios or both, and you're trying to figure out what's happening, trying to push them into the right direction. And this happened many times. People having worries about their health, about their performance, about a lot of things. So, but not in the warm up.
Yeah.
We are supporters. We are there uh, to try to get the best out of the players, and we're not there to put more pressure. I mean, the strength coach, the physio, all the supportive staff. The pressure is put by the coach, and that's enormous pressure, and that's his job to make them better. You know, Steel is forced through pressure and fire, and so that's how I see myself. I don't want to be an addition to their pressure.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense for sure. Um, well, working with this like elite teams like CSKA or Fenerbahce, that basically means every game you're expected to win, which is like a double-edged sword. It's obviously a privilege, but it comes some form of responsibility. Um, who is like maybe do any players or coaches come to mind? We know some players like love the pressure or get even better with the pressure that you worked with that comes to mind right now for you.
Well, a lot of them. I think it's hard to have a career in this team more than a year and not thrive under pressure. Nobody likes it, right? Nobody really enjoys. Oh, great! I'm going to be in this 2-hour video session getting hammered from by coach, or coaches are getting all this pressure from the press and the presidents, and say that is a great day. Everybody feels, but we're all addicted to that. And you see, all these years, I can see that the players that are really use this pressure in their own way. Somebody will be reacting bad, or they're going to be blaming the coach, but deep down they want this pressure. They want to win. They want to be in this team. And I'll speak for myself. I cannot imagine in any form of whatever I do that I'm there just to have a good time. It's okay to lose. It's okay to not to be the best. It's okay not to. And I felt very bad when we're going to Final Fours and say, Fenerbahce is not. They're probably going to lose. I was so mad. I said, we got to prove them wrong, because we got to win. But there's a lot of people, all the coaches that I work with, Coach Tudis, obsessed. Coach Saras, obsessed. And you can see them when the pressure goes up, their mood changes. They're not that so pleasant to be around. But the pressure goes up, my man. They're pressuring everybody around them to win. So we got to get our shit together, and it's not like a good feel good talks, or uh, uh, backing down and trying to use excuses. Everybody just at the end of the day pushes the players to get better. The players react. They're blaming the coach, but they also get better. The players that were not up to that, they don't thrive. They don't last for another season. And if you look at the rosters who remained for many years at this level of winning teams, right? It's very, very few players that went from one winning team to another winning team and did well. Some of them go to the winning teams and then just drop to a team that it's okay to lose, and yeah, we play in Madrid and it's okay, for example, or whatever, CSKA, whatever, and it's okay to lose. So I think the system will either, you're either going to survive or the system's going to kick you out.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, I mean, it's talked about a lot, but when you're in a room, even me with my professional team, when you're day to day, you can see how obsessed are they with being competitors, wanting to win. Just being around those personalities, for me, even
It's
opened the
amazing.
eyes. Like,
It's amazing. And it's, Tim Grover wrote a book years ago about the cleaners and I don't remember the Relentless, I think it was the name. And you see
yeah.
that this pattern everywhere. So I say we got great players and you got the champions, right? And you got the good players, the great players, but the champions are a different breed. You're like you said, you're around them, you feel the aura, super serious, super driven, very consistent, no bullshitting around. Game day comes, they don't speak to no one. They're very demanding. They're nuts. They're nuts. And people say, "Oh, this guy's psycho." Well, like he's a genius. He's a winner. He's a champion. That's you can't be a champion any other way. And if you can't handle it, and always said, I loved working with these players. I had a player, uh, in CSCA. I don't want to say names, but hey, if you were late 1 minute, you were 1 minute late, and the shit. Wow, yeah, I'm not going to be 1 minute late. I got to be on time, right? So this is how focused they were, and they demanded that from everybody around, right? So I'm telling you, this was a great lesson, and you just see how these individuals function, coaches or players, and there's no room for you to relax or feel bad, or coach will snap at you, and yeah, he snaps to everybody. If you can't handle it, you gotta go. So I love being in those types of environments, by the way, and I've learned so much about what it takes to win from these individuals, because I thought I knew, but I didn't know. For sure. And I'm really blessed to have been around these level players and these level teams where you can see that excellence.
Perfect. Great. Well, I want to wrap this up slowly. A few legacy questions, let's call it. First of all, tell the listeners a little bit more about the European Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. You guys started this, I think, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the EuroLeague Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association.
Yes.
This E stands for EuroLeague, and I would love if at some point in the future it will stand for also for European.
Yeah.
Um, because it's an association of the EuroLeague Strength and Conditioning coaches. And how it started is it started at a dinner in Tel Aviv with my good friend Reggie, and Roberto Iezzi was there, just starting his career at that point in I think he was in Jerusalem, and we're eating at this nice restaurant, and we just discussed it in the past, like we don't know each other. It'd be great if we just get connected, and we said, well, why don't we make like in a summit? I think it was like December or November. Let's create a chat and let's put everybody up there. And I didn't know the names of half of the coaches in the EuroLeague, and I'm ashamed to say that. I mean, I knew the first names, but I didn't know much about them. And we created that chat real quick, and then we organized our first summit, which got canceled because of COVID. And the second year we did that, and we jump started it. And what it is, of course, we want to be united and have a say in what's happening in the EuroLeague and promote our profession and our matters, let's say. But we also wanted to reach out into the European strength and conditioning community for basketball and create knowledge, create this connection, create this community that we didn't have. And I'm happy to say that I think it's kind of, we created a base and a core, because I see the same people, a lot of the same people, attending the events and being close to us, and then more and more are added. I think this year in Torino, 27, 28 of June, in Turin, Italy, I think it's going to be the biggest one. We already have more than 100 signups. So, a lot of companies more than ever to showcase their products and services. So I think that we're growing, and I'm happy to see it. As a nonprofit, no one's making any money out of it. We're putting in money, but seeing that world getting connected is brilliant. And I know we have now a lot more conversations with the NBA and the NCAA just because of this interaction with the webinars and the summits.
Well, I got to share my story because I was at the first summit in Athens. That was 4 years ago.
Yep.
When I didn't have a strength and conditioning job. So I aspired to be that. And then I returned. I was also in Prague, and I'm already signed up for this
You're
year.
one of the regulars. I know. I see your name everywhere.
Yeah, but I gotta say, like, I came there with like an idea and a little bit of a dream, and now it's my second pro season in the Netherlands, and definitely the connections there and just the energy of all the coaches at one place is motivating and inspiring, obviously.
I
So
think this is what we need to hear, exactly why we created it. I know it takes a little bit of a small push in a lot of people to get them going. And I know I speak for myself. This is how I got started, right? So to me, just bringing this energy and bringing everybody together is why we created I'll take it back. This is why we put all this effort to create those events, because you can have an association with no events. We just meet with the EuroLeague and that's it. We don't need to reach out to anybody. But we have big dreams. We're going to start in September an internship program or a mentorship program where people can visit us for a week, coaches, and just see what's happening in our world and exchange opinions and get to know us and we get to know them and just try to create a bigger pie, let's say, to cook a bigger pie so everybody will have a chance. So
yeah, for sure. If you're a young coach, student from Europe, I'll put the link to the event in the show
thank you.
notes. Um, yeah, definitely a great event. All right, Kostas, one more question.
Sure.
Yeah, we started with all these decades of experience. We're gonna finish on that too. I want to know, when you look back on your career from now, what do you hope your players remember about you? Maybe
Well,
you can share as a coach, but also as a person. It's yeah.
yeah, I guess I want to be remembered as a guy, as a coach that cared. He was genuine. He was with the goods and the bads and the good days and the bad days. He was just a coach that cared. And you know what? This guy really wanted my best. I had my best interest in mind, and he kind of helped me. If I can get that, you know, I'm not I'm not shooting low but really that's all I want is that there was a person there that helped me out achieve my goals, and he was genuine. He just wanted to, you know, do what he loves the most, and uh, which is which would have a direct reflection on me to get better. That's all I want. I would like with my work and my players.
Well, that's what is fulfilling about our job for sure.
Another thing I said, like the players are the stars, and we're the planets. The planets get light only if the stars shine light on them. And really, it's not about us. It's about the players. And that's the only way you can get any credit and any satisfaction is if the players and the coaches are doing well, but mostly the players. So that's what I would like to be remembered as, a guy that cared and had a little bit of a contribution into the team and to if that extends to the larger community, the greater community, that's even better.
Perfect. Well, I got to share my story for the end because
For
we
sure.
were at we were at the event in Munich this year, and I was there on the seminar day, wanting to get my workout before the whole day is sitting on the chair, and I walked down into the weight room. Was like 8 a.m. I thought I was earlier gonna be alone, and there I see you already sweating, working out. And you talked about relentless and like that thing. I was like looking, wow, okay, this guy is for real. So
You got to,
yeah.
yeah. First of all, once you grow older, you find out that it's harder to stay in shape. And that, working out is something that energizes me. If I work out in the morning, I'm great all day. A lot of people feel that. I don't know. I'm sure you do. But It's about consistency. So no one likes to wake up at 7 and go work out, but it's consistency. So you just put one foot in front of the other, do your thing, and get out.
Perfect, perfect. Kostas, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. Yeah,
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope it's going to be interesting for the listeners and the viewers. And I'll see you in Turin.
for sure. See you in Torino. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.